TV. Too raw for TV.
What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV, aka Darth Apocalypse. So, going towards the end of the 2025-26 season, most signs indicated that this upcoming season would more than likely be LeBron James's last year. And coming from a lot of us, well, most of us who suffer from LeBron fatigue. Hell, I've been suffering from LeBron fatigue since at least 2019. It couldn't come fast enough, right? But then we found out that when it was finally announced, after the uber narcissist dragged out the indecision, when it was found out he signed a 2-year deal, then we said, wait a minute, he might actually play for a 25th season? Well, now Rich Paul says LeBron may play for another 4 years. So I'm reading from an article. Let me give credit where credit's due. I got this from Dreamers Pro. He talked about this last night in the live stream. Shout out to him. Please subscribe to his platform. He's also now on X/Twitter under his name, Charles Tabansi. I think it's Charles Tabansi. But anyway, I'm reading from an article from CBS Sports. It says 4 more years. LeBron could play much longer than many think, agent Rich Paul says. The 76ers won the LeBron James sweepstakes, if you want to put it like that, last week after signing the NBA's all-time leading scorer to a 2-year deal with a player option for the 2027-28 season. In announcing his decision to sign with Philadelphia, James, 41, said he was, quote, pretty sure he had played his last NBA game when the Lakers were eliminated from the postseason. Instead, he was suited up for his 24th season when the 76ers take the court this fall. Rumors about James's impending retirement have surrounded him for several years and will continue to persist until he ultimately hangs it up for good. Even heading into his first year with the 76ers, his 4th NBA team, there will be more questions about retirement after James signed a 1+1 contract that gives him the flexibility to opt out at the end of next season and either retire or sign a new deal. Although it's possible his stint with the 76ers is one and done and he retires after next season, James could play beyond the 2026-27 campaign. In an interview with ESPN's James's agent, Rich Paul, he said that signing with the 76ers will energize him. I think Philly's going to energize him. Maybe we get 2 seasons. Maybe we get 4. If Paul is serious about James playing 4 more seasons in the league, that would take him to the 2029-30 season. It may seem far-fetched from the surface, but it's also something you can't put past James as he chases his 5th NBA title. This is what perplexes me about LeBron, right? And the media. The longer he plays, let's just say for the sake of argument that he plays another 4 years and there's only, let's say, through stat padding, we know he does that, and loafing on defense and low managing and calls and rules that have been, augmented and either not applied or not applied stringently to help him succeed more than he would be succeeding, right? But let's say he averages 19 this upcoming season, right? Although we know it'll probably be 20, and then next year is 19, and then it's 18, right? At some point, you have to ask yourself, how is he doing this? I don't want to hear anything about rest. I don't want to hear anything about, you know, eating regimens. I don't want to hear that shit. After a period of time, these things start to become unexplainable. And the rumors and your common sense and logic begin to take over. And this is what really confounds me about the media. When Barry Bonds was doing what he was doing when he was in his late 30s, the media always, back then were asking logical questions. How is a guy, an athlete, putting up some of his best numbers, if not his best numbers, when traditionally athletes decline after age 35? How is Barry Bonds doing all these amazing things when this is generally speaking when athletes diminish in production? How did he put on all this muscle? How does he maintain that muscle at an age when most people, even athletes, begin to decline physically? More body fat, less muscle tone. We saw them with Roy Jones, right? Remember Roy used to have the six pack? Now the only six pack Roy's rocking is the one that's probably in his refrigerator, right? So why is it that the media could ask these logical questions about Barry Bonds, even though he had never officially failed a drug test? But with LeBron James, if you just happen to bring these things up, you get ostracized in the mainstream media. Even though I'm already answering my question. But is it because they didn't like Barry Bonds? Is that the sole reason? You just didn't like Barry. So therefore, you're going to use the suspicion of Jim Candy against him to screw up his career, ultimately ostracize him at the end, which blocked him from furthering his records and career. And the worst part, to keep him out of the Hall of Fame as a punishment because he didn't kiss your ass. He didn't bow down to the media. Much like how they shunned his father to the point where Bobby Bonds never got his just due as a great player. But David Ortiz, who, if I remember correctly, twice failed Jim Candy tests, is in the Hall of Fame. Ryan Garcia, who you guys like, who failed a test for Jim Candy, you guys didn't punish him at all. As a matter of fact, somehow Devin Haney was the bad guy. He got beaten up by a guy using Jim Candy. How does these things, they don't make sense, ladies and gentlemen. These things make no sense whatsoever. But as this guy career progresses, it's going to be harder and harder to explain his production and chop it off to genetics. No, no, it makes no sense. How is it that this one guy, out of the 5,000 or so players that have played in the NBA, has been able to do on a scale what nobody else has been able to do? It's the equivalency of somebody living to be 150. It mathematically is impossible. And usually all those claimants of, oh, I'm 168, I'm 170, they've all been found to be frauds. So you tell me about that. Then, of course, you have to ask yourself this question: what is he afraid of when it comes to retirement? He's been caught on camera saying that his wife has been pestering him to retire for quite some time. What is he afraid of? Is he afraid that if he retires, he no longer is useful, and that when his usefulness comes to an end, the media is going to turn on him, his handlers are going to turn on him, and he becomes more profitable to them as a punching bag, and all the dirt comes out, and his legacy is ruined and tarnished. I don't know. All I know is at some point it comes across as selfishness. How many records do you need? How selfish is it that you continue to go to team after team in the twilight of your career, and you have to ruin up and coming stars, which the league desperately needs? These guys have to stymie their growth to satiate your ego, your pride. He's the antithesis of everything that I've been schooled on when it comes to athletes. At some point, the great athlete, the great quarterback, the great whoever, if they play long enough, they have to take on a secondary role and keep their ego in check. This guy refuses to do that, and he sets a bad precedent. His entire generation have ruined sports. You already got college kids now low managing. College kids, ladies and gentlemen. They play what, 30 something games? These guys are the worst. And I'll never honor them.